Hey, it's Kevin and Frank from Cruisin' with Wheels. And today we're talking ground transportation. That's right, this one's for Jimmy C. So today we're talking ground transportation. One of our subscribers, Jimmy C., wrote us an email.
What did he say?
He said, "Gentlemen, enjoying your videos and have commented on several of them. Can you do a video or recommend what transportation you use to get to the Gem in New York City? We will be 6 adults with luggage leaving from Staten Island to the Gem. It's about a 15-mile ride. Any info would be greatly appreciated. Warm regards, Jimmy C."
Oh.
Well, Jimmy C., you've inspired us to do a video on ground transportation. So today, we're going to talk about the 5 commonly used ground transportation to get to your cruise.
So, we have a few options here, and we hope it helps.
Now, we have used 4 of these options. We have not used all of them. Unfortunately, we have not used option number 1. Oh, no, we've used option number 1.
We have used option number 1.
We haven't used option 2.
So what is option 1?
Option number 1 is bum a ride from a friend.
That's right. Ask a friend or a family member if they could take you to the port. I mean, if you're in the city where the cruise ship is leaving and you have a friend or a family member there that can help you out, ask.
Now,
we did.
We have. Thanks, Sean.
Thanks, Sean and Sue.
My brother, Sean, and my sister-in-law, Sue, and my nephews were gracious enough to host us for an evening in Orlando. We were leaving from Orlando last year on the Carnival Valor, I believe. And we spent the night at their lovely home. We had a great time, and in the morning, we bummed a ride from my brother, Sean. He took us on a tour of the city, so to speak, first.
Cape Canaveral.
Yep, Cape Canaveral, and then he dropped us off at the port. It was great.
Yeah.
It saved us quite a bit of money in hotel and transportation, taxi or whatever we were going to take. So, thank you.
As well as having a great evening and dinner with them and the boys. Yeah, it was all around a good time.
So, option number 2 is what I was saying in the beginning, which we haven't done. And what's that, Frank?
Drive our own car. Well, we live in upstate New York on Lake Ontario, and we're like probably an hour and a half, 2 hours from Canada. So there's no way we're going to drive our car
to a port.
To Port of New York or Miami or wherever.
No, we're a flying kind of people.
Yeah.
We don't do big, long road trips.
No.
And that's enough said on that.
But if you're within driving distance, and a lot of people are,
it's a good option.
Exactly.
We do want you to keep in mind that when you're driving, you're going to save a boatload of money in airfare.
Right.
However, you're going to have gas. You might have tolls.
Right.
And the parking can be pretty hefty at ports.
Right.
Since we really haven't done it, what we would suggest is whatever port you're traveling from. So let's say, for example,
Port of New York, Port of Miami.
Let's say Miami. You want to go to the Port of Miami website, and it should tell you a daily rate or a weekly rate. So if you're doing a 7-day cruise, a weekly rate is always going to be better than if you were to choose 7 singular days. I was going to say consecutive. That wasn't right.
But do your homework and do your research. That's what we do. And, get a feel for what it's going to cost you to park at the port that you're leaving out of. And then you can plan accordingly your financials.
Now, the third third ground transportation we've done before.
Yes, we have.
It's a shuttle bus. Now the shuttle buses, there's a couple of different ways you can do shuttle buses. The main shuttle bus that people would take would be arranged through the cruise line, right?
Right.
So when we traveled and we used the shuttle bus, we were on Carnival, I
Right.
think.
Wasn't it?
The Conquest?
Right. And wasn't it like, was it, how much money each? Was like $40 each or something like that?
It depends.
Depends on.
It depends on the cruise line.
Right.
It depends on the port. And it depends on the distance of the airport. Because one of the things that you have to be concerned with is that a shuttle bus is only going to leave from a major airport to the port of call on that day that the cruise will be leaving.
Now, if I remember correctly, on that cruise, we flew in and we got a free shuttle. We flew in the day before, and we got a free shuttle bus to our hotel. So that was all worked out. But then the next day, when the cruise was leaving, we had to get the shuttle bus of the hotel to bring us back to the airport where the cruise line shuttle bus was going to pick us up.
And that is where we learned our lesson with taking the shuttle bus.
It was way too much.
It was
for
a
me
lot.
In the wheelchair, and then you're dealing with this big giant, Greyhound bus type of bus. It was the luggage, the wheelchair, trying to get off. It was way too much. So we're like, no, we're not going to do this in 2 to 3 parts anymore.
So we opt sometimes for option number 4, which is a taxi service. Now, a lot of people aren't going to feel comfortable with a taxi service, so there's a few little things that we do.
A lot of times the taxis get a real bum rap.
So we suggest you have a cell phone with a GPS app on it. You can put in the GPS coordinates of the port from whatever destination you are leaving from, say your hotel or even the airport if you fly in the day of. Because to be honest, we feel like a taxi is a little bit more personal, a little bit less money, but it's the kind of budget personal way to get transportation to the port. Now the last one, Frank, what's that?
Number 5, which is what we use, is a private car service.
Now there are many different types of private car services. You could do Uber. We don't like Uber, so we choose not to do it. In some of the major cities, there's a company called Lyft. It's, I believe, Lyft. And what we use, particularly when we're in New York City, and we've done it quite a few times, so listen up, Jimmy C. We use GroundLink. Now, there's only 2 of us, and frankly, the money comes out of our budget anyways, so it's not like we're saving any money. However, it's a personalized service, right? They pick us right up at the airport. Now, Jimmy lives in Staten Island, so the service, GroundLink, will pick you up at Staten Island at your residence, I'm assuming. And you had mentioned that you have, I believe, 6 adults with luggage. So, within the GroundLink website, you will have some choices to make. Do you want a standard car, which would be like a Toyota Camry? Do you want a mid-size car? Do you want a luxury car? Do you want an SUV? Now that's what Frank and I pick, is an SUV. Why?
Well, because there's 2 of us and luggage and my wheelchair. And
frankly, we need that extra storage space in the trunk for that wheelchair.
Right. So
now,
that's what works for us.
Now, what I would suggest for you, Jimmy C., is to book a van. They have passenger vans. They're really quite nice. We've been in them before when we were with other people. When you're booking it through their website, there'll be a link in the description for all the companies that we've discussed so far. On their website, you'll select the appropriate vehicle, depending on the number of passengers, and it will tell you the number of baggage that it can handle as well. So I think you should be fine with a passenger van. And then what I would say is you take that cost and divide it by 6. It'll be cheaper than a taxi for you. It really will.
Yep.
Now, the reason why we really, really, really like GroundLink too is that the tips, the gratuity, is already included in the price.
Total cost.
So what they quote you is what you're paying.
Right. You're not going to have, at the end of it, where you're getting out and he's taking your luggage out and you're at the port, you're not going to have to worry about, somebody have some money so I can tip this driver. Gratuities are already part of the cost. So there's no extra money involved.
Now, I also want to tell you that with GroundLink, all of the drivers have little business cards. So if you decide next year you're going to go on this cruise again and you want to use him, or let's say, Jimmy, that you want to use him to go into Manhattan, take somebody out for the night, you can use that same driver. We absolutely loved our driver the last few times, so we've used him consistently. And it's nice because we landed a little late, I think. Remember, he took that shortcut.
Now, when you book it, what they use is so many minutes after. They monitor your flight.
Yes.
So explain how that all works. So they monitor the flights, and how do they calculate when they should be there to pick you up?
So there's a bunch of different ways that you can select what time for them to pick you up. If you are flying in, they will pick you up curbside at no additional charge. They do monitor your flights. So generally, when we're in New York City, it takes us, because Frank is in the wheelchair, quite a bit of time to get from the terminal to where the baggage area is. So by the time we arrive, what happens, Frank?
Well, now, but I also want to say, because I'm in the wheelchair, I may be the first to board the plane when we fly to New York City, but I am the last one off the plane. So I have to sit there while everyone else gets off the plane, and I have to wait for them to get my wheelchair out of cargo. Now, everyone else is now running down to collect their baggage, but I'm still on the plane. So that's a lot of extra time. So once, Kevin's out there, the wheelchair is ready, we get me in the wheelchair. By the time we make our way down to baggage claim, the baggage claim area is already onto the new plane's set of luggage, and our luggage has been whisked off along the side somewhere because no one's picked it up yet.
And Frank, we kind of do that to ourselves, frankly, because we always take from where we live, the best rates to get to New York City are always through Delta, and we frankly love Delta. So Delta's terminal is so far away from where the baggage claim is that there's a shuttle bus that'll take you there. However, it would entail Frank getting out of the wheelchair again and getting back in a seat and then up and down the bus. So I walk it. I get him in the wheelchair and I hustle my little fanny right through.
Right through the airport.
So once you've picked up your baggage, that's where they'll meet you. And GroundLink will monitor your flight, and they'll know exactly where you are because of the flight information that you provided for them if you are flying in.
Another issue that I have is because it's not easy for me, like everybody else, to get to a bathroom. It's important that once we get to the exit where our driver is going to pick us up, I need to make sure I get to a handicapped bathroom before I get in that car and make our way to the port, because I'm not going to make it. So,
well, some people might not know because they haven't gone through New York City yet. But LaGuardia and JFK are about an hour and 15 to an hour and 20 minute ride from the airport to the port. Now, that's not at peak time.
Right, so again, it depends on the time of the day.
Right.
So is it early morning, or maybe is it like, 10:30? A very big difference, whether
it's a big difference.
7 in the morning or 10 in the morning. And to say, well, I'm only 15 miles away. Well, 15 miles away could take you quite a bit of time depending on traffic. So you have to take that all in account.
Where we live in upstate New York, 15 miles away could take me 10 minutes to drive.
Right.
But in New York City, you've got traffic, you've got lights, you've got congestion.
Construction.
So
Tolls.
keep in mind when you're booking your flights.
Right.
So anyways, when you're on their website, you've now selected your vehicle, you've
Keyed in your flight
information. It'll have a drop-down menu. And within the drop-down menu, there'll be options. Do you want them to monitor your flight? And generally, they'll pick you up 15 minutes to a half an hour after. I can't remember exactly what it says, but you'll see.
You have time options for delays in picking up.
You have options, correct. And like I said, we always select half an hour later. But I want to tell you that also GroundLink has an app.
Oh, that's right.
An app for your phone. Download the app, whether you have a Google Android-based phone or an Apple phone. Once you download the app, you can communicate with your driver. So when our flight was late and delayed and we were panicked, our driver already knew that we were going to be late. And so once we landed, he was on a half an hour delay for us. And we managed to make it through quite quickly through the airport, grabbed our bags, did our little potty break, and I was able to text the driver, and he was outside the door, toot sweet.
Right, and say, hey, you know what? We made it actually ahead of schedule. Then we put on our form to have you pick us up. How soon can you get here? And boom, he was there.
Now, I also want to advise all of our viewers that if you are going to use a private car service, in particular GroundLink, do not hesitate to book that. Don't worry about the money right now because
How many months in advance do we book? Did we book GroundLink? Probably.
I booked
like
for October's cruise,
Right,
so we're leaving in October, which is 127 days from today of the filming of this video. And I booked them...
6 months?
No, I booked them like 11, 12 months ago.
Wow.
So as soon as I booked the cruise, I booked the ground transportation because you can cancel.
Right. Because why? When do they charge you?
They don't charge you until like the day or a day before, 2 days before your trip.
Right. So you're not going to be charged the 6 months to 12 months before you go on your cruise. You're not going to have that charge on it. You know, you're going to be a day or two before you actually have the service, and then they charge your credit card.
Now, I'm going to tell you that we've only used GroundLink in New York City up until this point. We will be using GroundLink in Miami for our return, to take us to our return flight. So it'll be our first experience in another state with them, or another state and another city.
Right.
So we will let you know when we get back how it went in Florida with GroundLink.
Right, because it'll be our first time.
So typically, when the cruise ship comes back in, you have to do a little bit of thinking. So we would prefer to wait for our ride rather than our ride wait for us. The problem with that, with setting it up for when the cruise ship comes into port, is we've been on cruises when the ship was late.
Yeah.
It was supposed to dock at 8 in the morning. It didn't dock until 10. And we didn't get off the ship until 11. And typically what I'll do is I will set up the ride to pick us up around 11. And then we can always text them and say, we're early. We did that this time on the jump.
It was in the freezing cold. It was, oh my God, we had the gloves and the scarves and the hats, and we were outside because, they want you out of the way because they're getting all the new passengers on board. We were freezing. I'm like, Kevin, get him on the phone. How quickly can he get here? He made it within like 5 minutes. And I thought, oh, praise Jesus. Get me in that car. Get me in that car and crank the heat.
And it was great. And we got to the airport.
And I'd rather spend the time waiting in an airport
Right.
where there's food, drink, and bathrooms.
So I would say just remember when you're booking your return from your vacation that you make it a little later rather than earlier, just in case you have any
And
delays.
stuff happens.
Right.
So, to recap, the 5 ways that you can use ground transportation: a free ride,
Use the buddy system.
your own car,
Then you're paying for your own gas.
a shuttle bus,
Toot toot.
taxi service,
Always on duty.
all right, or private car service.
Our preferred transportation.
Right. So, that's it. Jimmy, I hope this has helped you in giving you the information you need, and along with all the rest of our viewers. So, on behalf of Kevin and myself, Cruising with Wheels,
Travel safe.
and cruise often.
And don't forget to comment below and check the description for all of the companies that we mentioned earlier in the video. Bye-bye.
See you soon.